Picture this. You type your home address into a state-run website, and within seconds a map loads. Red dots scatter across your neighborhood. Each dot is a person, a name, a photograph, an offense, and suddenly, your peaceful street doesn't feel quite the same. This is not a sci-fi movie. This is Megan's Law in action. Megan's Law is one of the most emotionally charged criminal justice policies in American history. Born from unimaginable tragedy, it was created with one goal: to protect families. But over time, it has become a lightning rod for debate. Are we safer because of it? Or have we traded second chances for a lifetime of public shame? Our story starts in 1994. A young girl named Megan Kanka was lured into a neighbor's house in New Jersey. She never came out. Her killer, Jesse Timmendequist, was a twice-convicted sex offender. Yet no one in the community, including Megan's parents, knew of his past. The system had protected his privacy, but failed to protect Megan. Public outrage exploded. People demanded answers. And just months later, New Jersey lawmakers passed Megan's Law, requiring sex offenders to register with local authorities and making certain details publicly available. 2 years later, a federal version was signed into law by President Clinton. But as we've learned since then, the law's impact has gone far beyond its original intent. It's shaped where people live, whether they can find work, and how they reintegrate into society. It's also sparked legal battles over constitutional rights and whether the registry is truly effective at reducing crime. In this video, we'll break it all down. What caused the law to be written? How did it pass so quickly? What does it actually say? What are its consequences, good and bad? Who supports it and who wants to change it? Whether you're a parent, a former offender, a student of law, or someone curious about the justice system, this story will help you understand the cost and consequence of transparency in the name of public safety. June 29, 1994. Megan Kanka, 7 years old, is playing outside in her suburban New Jersey neighborhood. She's lured into a house across the street by Jesse Timmendequist, who lives with 2 other convicted sex offenders. Megan never comes back. The horror of her murder made headlines across the nation. What fueled the outrage even more was the revelation that Jesse had a long history of sex offenses against children. But because of existing laws, his neighbors, including Megan's family, had no idea. No notice, no warning. The justice system had prioritized his privacy over public awareness. Megan's parents, Richard and Maureen Kanka, were devastated, but they turned their grief into action. They launched a campaign to create a law that would notify communities about sex offenders living nearby. Their cry for justice gained traction fast. The public outcry was swift and powerful. Within months, New Jersey passed Megan's Law, mandating sex offender registration and community notification. Megan's death had become a national wake-up call. Megan's Law wasn't born from careful deliberation. It was born from outrage. After the Kanka's campaign gained national attention, New Jersey legislators drafted a bill almost immediately. By October 1994, just 4 months after Megan's death, the law was enacted. It required all convicted sex offenders to register with local police, and law enforcement agencies were now required to notify the public about certain offenders deemed high risk. In 1996, the federal government followed suit. President Bill Clinton signed the Megan's Law Amendment to the Jacob Wetterling Act, requiring all states to implement similar community notification systems. The law didn't stop there. It opened the door for further legislation, like the Adam Walsh Act in 2006, that expanded and standardized the registry nationwide. This was one of the fastest-moving legislative responses to a crime in U.S. history. It was emotional, swift, and driven by media coverage and political urgency. Megan's Law has 2 major components: registration and notification. First, it mandates that individuals convicted of certain sex offenses must register with law enforcement. This includes providing personal details such as name, address, photograph, and a description of the offense. In many cases, registration is for life. Second, it allows that information to be made public. States created searchable online databases. Some even added features like email alerts when an offender moves into your area. The idea is that an informed community is a safer community. But the law doesn't just apply to violent predators. It also includes nonviolent and juvenile offenders. This broad scope has led to criticism that the law paints with too wide a brush, treating all offenders the same regardless of the details or risks involved. Failure to register can lead to additional prison time, turning a civil regulation into what many argue is an ongoing punishment. For many, the label never goes away, even after decades of law-abiding behavior. The first wave of consequences came quickly. Public registries launched, media outlets started running stories featuring searchable offender lists, panic spread, communities demanded action. Some turned to protests, others turned to threats. The effect on offenders was immediate. Many lost jobs or were denied housing. Families of offenders were harassed. In extreme cases, vigilantes took matters into their own hands. One Washington state man even used an online registry to locate and murder 2 sex offenders in 2005. States added more restrictions. Offenders couldn't live near schools, parks, or playgrounds. Some states barred them from living within 2,500 feet of any place children might gather. The unintended result? A rise in homelessness among registrants. In cities like Miami, offenders were forced to live under bridges or in tent cities because there were no legal housing options available. The law had created a new class of social exile, often with no path back to normal life. Supporters of Megan's Law argue it saves lives. Parents deserve to know if a predator lives nearby. Communities have the right to protect themselves. But critics say the law sacrifices fairness for fear. It treats all offenders the same, regardless of risk. A teenager who had consensual sex with a slightly younger partner can end up on the same registry as a serial predator. Studies show that most sexual assaults are committed by first-time offenders or someone the victim knows, not repeat offenders already on the registry. This challenges the law's assumption that public databases will prevent most crimes. Legal scholars question the constitutionality of lifetime registration, especially when applied retroactively. Civil rights groups argue it becomes a form of civil death, a second punishment after the sentence is over. Over time, Megan's Law became a framework for federal and state expansions. In 2006, the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act created a national registry and standardized registration practices. Offenders were divided into tiers based on risk. Technology expanded the law's reach. Many states offer GPS tracking for high-risk offenders. Some communities send out text or email alerts. Others host town hall meetings whenever a new offender moves in. While these measures seem protective, they raise questions. Are they effective? Are they fair? Are they doing more harm than good? The most notable legal challenge came in 2003, Smith-Doe. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that Megan's Law was not punitive, but regulatory, meaning it didn't violate the Constitution's ban on ex post facto laws. Still, lower courts have struck down parts of the law in various states. Some ruled that certain restrictions were overly harsh, especially when applied to juveniles. Others found that public shaming violates due process. Many states have added avenues for relief, such as petitions for removal from the registry after a period of good behavior. But for most, the label remains permanent. Today, Megan's Law has shaped how Americans think about crime, punishment, and redemption. Registries are now part of everyday life. Parents use them to screen neighborhoods. Schools and churches consult them during hiring. But do they actually prevent crime? Research says it's unclear. Several studies found no significant drop in reoffense rates after Megan's Law passed. Others found increased homelessness and instability among offenders, factors that may increase recidivism. The stigma is lifelong. People on the registry often can't find work, housing, or community support. Their families suffer too. Children of registrants are bullied. Spouses are harassed. More lawmakers and citizens are starting to ask, is there a better way? Could a more tailored, risk-based approach protect the public without ruining lives unnecessarily? The question isn't whether Megan's Law was born out of good intentions. It clearly was. The real question is, does it still work the way we hoped? Public safety is important. So is the chance for someone to rebuild. A growing number of experts argue that a smarter, tiered registry could focus on high-risk individuals and allow others a path toward reintegration. Some call for removing low-risk or juvenile offenders after a certain time. Others propose confidential law enforcement-only databases. The goal is balance. Protect the community without branding people forever. Megan's Law changed the landscape of public safety forever. It emerged from tragedy and quickly became one of the most widely recognized criminal justice laws in the country. But nearly 30 years later, we must ask ourselves, has the law delivered on its promise, or has it created new problems we didn't foresee? It's a conversation worth having, not in anger, but in honesty. We owe it to victims, we owe it to families, and we owe it to those who've done their time and seek redemption. Should Megan's Law evolve? Should it be reformed to better reflect risk and rehabilitation? Or is its current structure still necessary to protect the most vulnerable? Your voice matters. Leave a comment below and let us know your thoughts. And if this kind of honest, fact-based deep dive helps you understand the laws that shape our lives, don't forget to subscribe. Let's keep asking the hard questions together.